Hello, everyone. I am Pastor Misty Howick, and this is our Lenten devotional Wisdom of the Proverbs. This is my first time in a long time doing Facebook Live. Things have changed. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I was doing daily posts, and I'm excited to be doing them again. We're doing this at New Song United Methodist Church. This is our Lenten discipline, one of the many things we're offering during Lent. This one is an everyday video devotional that I'll be doing on the wisdom of Proverbs. And every day it will look a little bit different, but we'll follow kind of the basic formula of we'll read part of Proverbs, we'll look at the context, and then how to apply it into our daily life. So, just really quick today, we're going to start with Proverbs chapter 1. It's broken up into 3 different sections, and I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to that. But hey, everyone, happy Lent. Yeah, Ash Wednesday was last night here at New Song United Methodist Church. We had a wonderful Ash Wednesday service. You can catch it on YouTube if you'd like. I think there's also a link to that YouTube channel on Facebook, so you can catch it there. And I hope you all are having a blessed day. We are located here in Surprise, Arizona, and it is in the Phoenix Valley area. So if you are out of town or you're out of state and you don't know who we are or what we are, I invite you to take a look at our Facebook page and Facebook channel and see who we are. We're United Methodist Church in Surprise, Arizona. Okay, so Proverbs. I was really excited to start Proverbs. It was kind of a personal challenge for me. I had always thought that Proverbs were just kind of like a series of lines that were really outdated and people kind of joked and laughed about. Now, spare the rod, spare the child, things like that. But there's a rich history in Proverbs. It's known as one of the wisdom, part of the wisdom literature of the Hebrew Bible. And the Hebrew Bible is where we get some of our faith traditions from as Christians because, well, Jesus had the Hebrew Bible. That was what he had. He was Jewish. So if you take a look into the Proverbs and what values the writings were conveying and the connections to the New Testament, I say they have connections to the New Testament. They are connections that we make, right, to the New Testament, because obviously that was not a part of their history. I want to go ahead and read the first part of Proverbs, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So if you start chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel." And it titles the next part, Prologue. "The learning about wisdom and instruction for understanding words of insight, for gaining instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity, to teach shrewdness to the simple, knowledge and prudence to the young. Let the wise to hear and gain in learning, and the discerning acquire skill. To understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." So I thought that was really interesting, this last verse, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And we could dig into that and what the fear of the Lord is to the people in the ancient Near East, or what it means for you. And maybe we'll pick that up tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, and that will be something that has piqued my interest, and I'll look into it for tomorrow, and we'll get to see. So I'm using 2 different resources to help guide us through Proverbs. One is just honestly the introduction to Proverbs in the NRSV translation of the Bible, and the other is today from the Encyclopedia Britannica. So those are the 2 resources that I'm looking at just for our quick introduction to Proverbs. Proverbs is known to be separated into 9 different sections. The first section in the chapters are like the first 9 chapters are an introduction, while the main portion of Proverbs can be traced back to King Solomon. There were edits and contributions from other people and times. It is thought that this first section is the youngest and done by the editors, not by King Solomon. It is framed as a father sharing wisdom with his son. For many of us reading this Proverbs, we can see the resurrection, like we're reading it post-resurrection, and so we can see maybe the Father being God, right? We translate that into God, and the Son as us being, God's child or God's son, and so it is coming to us. We can see ourselves in the reading of Proverbs. So the wisdom literature is also separated into what are called mashals. In their simplest and oldest form, it's a couplet. So this is a poetic device in which a definition was given in two parallel lines related to each other. So either antithetically or synthetically. So that means the two lines are comparing one another and they're similar, or there's something and then there's something that goes exactly opposite to it. And this is kind of what we think of when we think of Proverbs, is two lines. One talks about the positive, one talks about the negative. Verse 5 of the 15th chapter of Proverbs, an example of an antithetic saying: he who spurns his father's discipline is a fool. He who accepts correction is discreet. So in this way, we actually have the negative and then the positive. So what that looks like. But mashals are also parables, riddles, allegories. And to fully understand Proverbs, we have to understand ancient Near East wisdom literature, which extends beyond Proverbs into other books of the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, like Ecclesiastes, and even the book of Job, and even beyond our biblical and our canonical books to ancient Egyptian writers. There were a lot of wise sages in the ancient Near East that a lot of wisdom literature came from. So you have to look at not only what's in the Bible, but also what the influences were. And some of those were really old influences, and some of them were kind of recent influences. So I have to let you know, when we talk about Ecclesiastes, there's a lot of people I meet who are like, oh my gosh, I hate that book. It's very negative if you read it, but I love it. I love it. It's a very real book for me, and it is full of wisdom. So after Proverbs, y'all go read Ecclesiastes. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the second portion of today's chapter, which is chapter 1, Warnings Against Evil Companions. Hear, my child. Here's that, father to child. Hear, my child, your father's instruction, and do not reject your mother's teaching, for they are a fair garland for your head and pendants for your neck. My child, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie and wait for blood. Let us wantonly ambush the innocent. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of costly things. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. My child, do not walk in their way. Keep your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and they hurry to shed blood. For in vain is the net baited, while the bird is looking on. Yet they lie in wait to kill themselves, and set an ambush for their own lives. Such is the end of all who are greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. So this section, the second section of Proverbs chapter 1, it gives warning against evil companions. And it makes me want to ask other questions. So this is what the author thinks an evildoer does, right? You can kind of hear the voice of the evildoer. Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, and let us wantonly ambush the innocent. It's almost like a dramatic portrayal, like a very exaggerated image that they are holding up to say, don't be like this, don't be like this. Someone who murders, who steals, who doesn't care about the welfare of other people, but does things for their own to their own advantage and their own desires and their own gain. And so there's a warning here, such as the end of all who are greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. And so this is one of those ancient ideas that has come through and is now with us, that when you look out for yourself, you end up losing yourself. And we see that kind of message in the New Testament when Jesus is saying those who give up their lives end up living or having eternal life. This is that kind of idea. And here it is, all the way in the Hebrew Bible in our wisdom literature in Proverbs. To translate it into this time and this place, I think we often have conversations about evil in our culture with our companions in the media. There's a lot of mudslinging. People will call others evil. I like to go instead with the idea that a person is not evil, but their actions can be. And you might be rolling your eyes at me at that point and saying, okay, Pastor Misty, yep, easier said than done, but that is something that I think of. So when I read these passages, I have to kind of translate it a little bit to my own perspective, and especially in light of a Christian perspective where I believe in the forgiveness and grace of God, I have to remember, okay, these people are doing evil things, but even there's hope for them, in the forgiveness and grace of God. So there's different types of wisdom here in Proverbs. There's practical wisdom versus speculative. Most of the Proverbs wisdom is practical. It is day-to-day living stuff. It's not so much kind of ethereal or systemic or anything like that. It doesn't go beyond. It is very individual. This is nice for Lent because we can just take a moment to look at our individual actions and our individual thoughts, and our kind of look at ourselves as an individual and what the Proverbs have to say about us, and then work on it after Lent on how that reflects the system, right, that we're in. What kind of things does our system needs to work on? Hebrew wisdom, which owed much to that of its neighbors, appeared with the establishment of the monarchy and a royal court, and found a patron in King Solomon. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Through the following centuries, the wise men were at times the object of rebuke by the prophets who disliked their pragmatic realism. The exile of the Hebrew people, however, brought a change in Hebrew wisdom. It became deeply religious. So the wise men were convinced that religion alone possessed the key to life's highest values. I wish that we could have a conversation. You all who are watching this, and you can comment on the video even after it goes live and even after we end our live stream. But what do you think about that quote? The wise men were convinced that religion alone possessed the key to life's highest values. That's one for us to really ponder. And I have to say that I believe that God works outside of religious institutions. So for me, I'd have to start questioning, what does religion look like to the author of this particular article, this Encyclopedia Britannica, or to the wise men who said that, that religion alone possessed the key to life's highest values. Why isn't it God? God alone possessed the keys to life's highest value. I don't know. So I think that God can work outside of religion. And I think that people who are not religious can look at sacred texts like Proverbs in the Hebrew Bible and other texts and gain wisdom, even if they're not religious. And I am exactly with you on that. Hey, thanks for commenting. I'm glad that you're here with us. What does religion mean in that quote? Is it an organized thing? If it is a quote from, wise people, like if there's a quote from what they're calling wise people from the ancient Near East, what did they mean by that? Because, obviously there weren't churches then, because a church is a post-resurrection concept. So, or was it about the temple? Is the temple religious? Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. So that's interesting. We might have to do some digging on that, so I invite you to do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and dig into the third section of our first chapter. We're getting here close to 15 minutes that I've been talking, and we've been discussing things, so I want to make sure that we always keep our videos between 10 and 20 minutes. So the last section is called The Call of Wisdom. Wisdom cries out in the street. In the squares she raises her voice. At the busiest corner she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you refused, have stretched out my hand and no one heeded, and because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you, when panic strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will not, they will not seek me diligently, but will not find, or they will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices. For waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to me will be secure and will live at ease without dread of disaster. So this brings up the question in theology about is not obeying, in this essence, wisdom, is that grounds for condemnation and consequences, or are there natural consequences in not doing these things that wisdom is speaking? So wisdom is personified here as a female, and this goes through Proverbs as well. Wisdom is not only like something that God gifts and something that exists, but it is also in this essence personified into a person. It's kind of an interesting concept, but not too far from looking at some of the outside perspectives. I mean, we're talking Greek mythology, Roman mythology, where to understand these untangible concepts, you had to put it into a person, and then they have, they have personality, right? So in this essence, I wonder if that is outside influence coming in and talking about wisdom in that way as a person, because that's a way to understand it, right? We often personify things because we want to connect with them and we want to understand them more. We'll be looking more at this and the idea of wisdom as a person and its potential presence in the Trinity. Later on, there are going to be other chapters that speak more to wisdom in this sense, and so it'll be exciting to get to some of those chapters. So I hope that you enjoyed this time together, that hopefully you have questions, because 10 to 20 minutes is not a lot of time to dig into a whole chapter of Proverbs. I hope that this leaves you with more questions than answers. I know that's almost a curse, right, that I'm wishing upon you, in that you will be hungry for more. But we will be back tomorrow. If you do have questions, feel free to comment on here or send me an email at mistyhowick@dscumc.net, and you might see one of those questions get answered or at least talked about in a later devotional video. So I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me for this first chapter of Proverbs. I look forward to the research, to the contemplation, to the thinking that we'll do together as we dig in. May God bless you today and always.